Roll call.
Yes, Mrs. Berger?
Here.
Dr. Savignano?
Here.
Ms. Stricker?
Here.
Reverend Willis?
Here.
Okay. Do we have any public comment for a tax hearing?
Yeah, so the only thing I would like to say is that this is the first, I think, since I've been here, but I am recommending that we maintain the same rate that we were.
I said, is there public comment for a tax
Oh.
hearing?
I don't think Ms. Grunkemeyer wants to speak
Talk
at the
on the tax hearing. Okay, all right.
So there is no public comment.
Okay, so on to our discussion and action agenda. So we'll take a motion for the adoption of the tax rate.
I'll move to adopt the tax rate, same rate as prior year.
I'll second.
Okay,
Now.
now.
And I see how this one's going to go tonight.
That's a little private joke.
I know,
We're trying to keep it in order and make it, but
I know.
sometimes we all mess up. It's all good.
There you go. We are recommending that the rates stay the same. I think that with everything going on, that's our best recommendation for the year. And that rate is, did you say it, Melanie? Did you say the rate?
No, it doesn't have it in the motion, actually.
96.3.
Yeah, so maintain the 96.3 tax rate.
I can amend my motion to include that.
Yeah, you can amend your motion to include that.
Lori, she's going to amend.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's it.
Is that it? Anyone have any questions on the tax rate?
No.
Good, okay. All right,
Mrs. Berger?
yes.
Dr. Savignano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Reverend Willis?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, I'll take a motion to make the agenda part of the official board minutes. I'll make the motion to make the agenda part of the official board minutes.
Second.
Ms. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Savignano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Reverend Willis?
Yes.
Okay, and we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Oh, Ms. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Savignano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Reverend Willis?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, on to our regular Beechwood Board of Education meeting for September 14th. So welcome everyone to our Beechwood Board of Education meeting. We have some exciting things happening tonight. We have two of our employees that are retiring this year and after several years of service. So thank you for coming this evening. We appreciate it. And are we doing that first, or are we going to do that? Okay, all right. That's what I wanted to do first, but I need to read it. So, okay, do you want to say a few words?
Yes, ma'am. First of all, I got two rock stars tonight. One, I have to admit, she's like Madonna. I never knew her last name. I've never really been sure that I know her last name. All that I've ever known her as is Charlotte. And Charlotte worked in the cafeteria for us for 19 years. Always pleasant and great to be around. I finally even got to where I could joke with her a little bit as time went on. And I have to say, she's dressed up really awesome tonight. I told her on the way in she looked 10 times more relaxed than I've ever seen her before. So I'm a little jealous of her current state. But Charlotte Hudson worked in the cafeteria for 19 years, retired going into this year just due to the circumstances. And we hated to see her go, but we absolutely understood. So Charlotte, if you don't mind to come forward, we'd like to present you with a parting gift.
Congratulations.
It's really fragile, Charlotte.
All right, and the second person, I have to tease her a little bit. One year, Mel and I went to Haiti to work on a building project, and Sam, his birthday was while we were gone. So he had a birthday. Mom, was all freaked out. So he had a birthday before we left. He had a birthday while we were gone, and then Mom had to make up for him after we came back. So it was the birthday that keeps on giving. And Miss Wolf seems to have the retirement that keeps on giving. She retired before, she retired in the middle, and she's retiring after it's all over. And I think it's very fitting. If there's any place that you would like to walk by to have a relaxing, enjoyable environment, it's Miss Wolf's classroom. That will be missed. The Wolf Den, which was the best nickname ever for classroom, will definitely be missed at Beechwood. After 27 years of service, Ms. Wolf also made it official on, I don't know what date, it kept changing as well, but last month. So anyway, officially, we have not recognized her and given her a gift from the board. So I'm happy that her and her husband and her colleagues are here tonight. So Ms. Wolf, please come forward for your official board retirement.
I couldn't have
Congratulations.
worked at a better place. Although I was sad to go, I picked a good time to retire. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Two fine ones. We'll miss you both. And
Yes.
Charlotte, I want you to understand that you're missed in the cafeteria on a daily basis. Miss Wolf, you're missed on the top floor on a daily basis. So thanks to both of you. Thanks to both of you.
Yes. Okay. Well, we are going to move on with our regular meeting, and as much as I know you all
Public
want to
comment,
stay.
public comment.
Public comment first, before that? Okay, who do we have for public comment?
Sarah Grunkenbach.
Oh, okay. Sarah, you want to come up?
During my time of online learning, some things I am noticing in online learning is an increase in headaches, less motivation to do work and stay on task, and missing the interactions that school provides. During online school, it is very difficult to stay focused due to the distractions that home learning offers. I have talked to many of my peers, and they feel the same way with the ability to stay focused and stay on task. On behalf of that, it is increasingly harder to work in groups with NTI because of technical difficulties and not knowing what environment other students learn in. The hybrid schedule would even offer a difficulty as well when working with groups, because if a student are working together and they have a different last name, one will be at home and one will be at school. School is a very important part of my lives and many of my peers' lives. The interaction students are able to have is a pivotal part of learning. It is a place to learn and connect with others and discuss in groups. And with NTI, these interactions have been difficult. I'm hoping we go back to 5 days a week, and so we can have a better learning environment for students. While I have the board's attention, I would also like to add that I am in my second year of cheerleading at Beechwood, and I'm having a hard time understanding why cheerleaders have to wear masks while cheering when we can stay distanced 6 feet apart. Despite the fact that basketball, soccer, and volleyball are not required to wear masks at games or practice, even if they are not distanced.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah, was what I was going to say is that if they would like to, if you're welcome to stay for the meeting, but if you would like to depart, you most certainly can, and we will not be offended. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Wolf.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Congratulations on your retirement.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Congratulations, we
Thank
miss
you.
you.
Thank you, Charlotte. Thank you,
Thank
Kathy.
you.
Thank you.
That's what I was going to do. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, on to our discussion and action agenda. Oh, did you change it? Okay, got everybody,
I see return to school first.
what's that?
Return to school is first.
Yeah, but it wasn't on there before like that, but, okay. On to our discussion and action agenda. Item A, the return to school recommendation. Take a motion to approve the recommendation.
I will move to approve the recommendation to return to face-to-face instruction on our Level 2 hybrid schedule beginning on September 21st.
Second.
All right, so
Okay.
we're going to bring up a visual just for everyone real quick so I can explain. I think that this should be up for everybody that's tuning in online or watching this online as well. The first document, well, what you're seeing from home is the data dashboard that will go live on our website. This is how we will communicate to our community on the current situation at Beechwood Elementary and High School. In the top left, you'll see the total positive cases for the elementary and the high school, which are currently, so just for everyone's record, this is live. We took it, this is actual data. We started it on September the 1st because we're taking a 2-week rolling average. So every 2 weeks, it'll be a rolling average that will maintain in both the graph as well as the positive rate. So we started on September the 1st, so tonight we would have our first average. Right now, we are not aware of any positive or active cases in the elementary or the high school. However, we do have one district case. That's typically, that won't stand out as much as it does right now, but we did have a district case. We did have a situation where formally we had a student test positive, but they're out of quarantine, so that is not an active case, so we did not roll it into our numbers. However, we also thought it was important to graph, so you can click at the bottom of the graph and see current state and Kenton County data, and on the graph you will see the number of kids, faculty, Beechwood community, school community that have had symptoms within the last 14 days compared to the number who have tested positive for the last 14 days. And that was very important for us to communicate along to the families because I think most people would be surprised about the number of students that go to the nurse's office with potential symptoms that could or could not be related to COVID, which is another reason we're continuing to try to press forward to being able to test for symptomatic cases. Not a required test for symptomatic cases, but a offered test. And that one really big clarification for the board, that is not to be able to identify positives. That is to be able to sort out the negatives. And as you can see within the last 14 days, we've had 8 people with symptoms and only 1 positive. So we're pretty sure the symptoms are going to very much outweigh the positives. Now, on the right-hand side, you'll see percentage compared to the top that's currently in green, and based on our levels system, that would currently equate to a 5-day option for us. I'll get into explaining why that's not the case in just a minute, so try to bear with me. And then one more thing I want to point out, on the right-hand side, bottom, you'll see a link to both schools' return to school plans, as well down in number 4, the decision tree that we've put together. Mr. Ashley, would you mind clicking on that for us, please?
This is the PDF.
Oh, that's the PDF? Okay. Is there any way that you can work to see if we can get that up very quickly? And the reason why, I just want our parents to be able to see the process that we'll be going through to put kids back in school. So we're going to take a quick time out here just for a second, if you all don't mind. Is there any, while we're waiting, is there any current questions on the dashboard or anything you would like to see added to that?
I think this is great. It's nice to see the data.
Yeah, it's great. Given the governor's recommendations today, the public health recommendations, is it going to be changed to adapt to they're the little tweaks that are a little bit different?
Yeah, I'll take entertainments, but since the governor's statement, from what I've been able to gather, I haven't been able to read some of the documentation and dive into it at a deeper level, but it's basically on us to do the reporting, right? So I mean, our dashboard is going to be that avenue, and we have no interest in not reporting cases to our community, most of all, but also to the state. So that's no problem to us. However, my recommendation is not to tie the having school or not having school to state data, but to local data. So, and you know, that's the issue for me, is what is our local community data look like in response. So I'll have to be able to dive into that a little bit more to see exactly, and I apologize, I just didn't have the time to do the depth to be able to look at that. But all of our parents and the board, I mean, we have literally tried to map out any single circumstance that could come into play at Beechwood in comparison to someone testing positive or who they may have been around. And put it to a graph, a visual that parents can follow, the board can follow, the community can follow. It's very open, an open book as to how we're going to follow a process. There are two really, really large hurdles that I need the board to completely understand. One of which is, and we've had a lot of questions around return to school and mask. There's a big difference between a recommendation and a mandate, and I really don't have a choice to recommend something to you when it's a mandate. As of right now, it's a mandate that if you're in a school premise, that you're supposed to be masked. We are having one problem with that, though. When you stand up in front of a group and you're having a conversation or you're presenting like I am tonight, when a mask is on, it becomes more difficult for people to hear, and over time it becomes very difficult, and from a speaking standpoint, with the moisture and the problem with the mask. So there is one caveat that I'm recommending, and it is a CDC guideline. However, it technically doesn't meet the state guidelines. If a teacher is over 6 feet away from students as they are presenting and they have a face shield on, I am recommending that they be allowed to pull their mask down to be able to instruct from a safety and a presentation standpoint. That meets all CDC guidelines, but technically under the letter of the law, what I'm doing right now, or a teacher teaching with a face mask does not meet the state guidelines. That is the only caveat that I can put into play that just openly that we've discussed. So our decision tree, followed by the last thing that I would like to show is what we're asking from parents is the health protocol that a parent would sign, that they're not basically doing a general health screening before a kid comes to school. And this is really important for us, even though we're taking steps in protocol here. It's important as we move back into face-to-face instruction that we have protocols and a partnership from school to home. Now, this is where I get a little nervous, and this is where while I really appreciate Ms. Kirkenmeyer, Sarah, you did a great job, by the way, and very much appreciate her presentation. The other mandate, the other requirement that we face is the 6-foot social distancing. And the contact tracing tied to that. If a student is under 6 feet distance for longer than 15 minutes, and they come into the high school under 100% 5-day option. They're gonna be in contact anywhere between 28 and 42 kids over the course of the day, because the 2 on each side of them, the 2 in front and back, and then diagonally to some extent, they're going to get in contact with 7 periods, somewhere between 28 and 42 to 50 kids, right? Based on the current guidelines, that's not an option for us. If I test positive, and I've been that student, all of those kids that have been within 6 feet of me over the course of the day are required to quarantine for 14 days. So that means that our administration, Stacy, and our health department would have to call that many parents and tell them that technically, based on the Kentucky guidelines, that they couldn't come to school, they couldn't come to extracurricular activities, they couldn't go to a job, they could basically do nothing outside of their home for the course of 14 days.
What about testing? Would they have to do that if they went and
All right,
tested?
Stacy, I'm going to defer some of this to you, so do you mind coming up? And matter of fact, you can sit right here beside me, so Ray doesn't even have to move. And I asked Stacy to be here tonight because she's kind of been our go-to. We have had some tense conversations about this process, but she's kind of kept me in check and made sure that we're following every guideline. So would you respond to that question?
What was the question again?
Well, Dr. Stacy was commenting in regard to if a child tests positive, that the kids around them would all have to be quarantined for up to 2 weeks. So would you be able to have that child, could you be tested to rule that out, or would they have to be tested several times?
So the data suggests that they can get sick 2 to 14 days after they're exposed. So the CD guidance says even if they test negative on day 5, they could test positive day 6 through 14. So a negative test does not allow them to come back. They have to do the full 14
And so
days.
the quarantining would be only if we can't accommodate 6 feet.
So the problem comes into play based on the guidance around contact tracing is why it's so hard. Now, the board asked that we look at a 5-day option for elementary school, right? So in doing that, we've taken both gyms, we've taken the cafeteria, we've taken the commons, we've taken the stage. All that space has gone into either socially distancing for lunch or socially distancing for the elementary to have a 5-day option. So there's no more space to be able to spread out the high school. And that's where it becomes problematic. Under a hybrid, we're able to guarantee if everybody follows the protocol, there should be no contact tracing because everybody should be extended over 6 feet apart. If there's no contact tracing, then nobody has to be quarantined, because even if I'm test positive right now, Ms. Berger, Ms. Withington are far enough away from me that they don't have to stay home for 14 days. And that's my biggest problem in trying to answer this for the community. We received well over 100 responses from your request to get input. Most of those, all but I counted 4, wanted face-to-face instruction. Over half of the ones that wanted face-to-face instruction wanted 5 days. And while I concur with many of the points that they brought up in their emails and many of the points that Sarah brought up in her opening statement, I couldn't figure out, and our admin group can't figure out, our district health coordinator can't figure out how to keep from having a massive quarantine with one positive test. And we are going to have one positive test. I mean, that's going to happen. So from a risk mitigation standpoint and a quarantine standpoint, there's really no way to enter back in at the current time other than a level 2 at the high school with an all 5-day option level 2 at the elementary school. I would love to be able to find a back door around that, but unfortunately I can't. And if I don't follow the guidelines and anybody has a problem, then I could very easily be responsible for neglect. And that's one of the words that, Jeremy never likes me to use from a school law standpoint, right? Because that one causes you all problems. And that's the reality of the situation. We have the dashboard, we have the data to be able to make decisions. We're actively searching to be able to provide flu screenings and COVID screenings to our community, which is going to help. I mean, we've done everything I know to do, and right now, as far as getting the kids back, this is my recommendation, and that's why it exists the way it does.
And I know, I'm sure, I'm not the only person wondering how the private schools can do it with 5 days. Are they following that same protocol?
I can't say whether they're following or not following. I can't speak for anyone else. I know that I'm only aware of one public school that has already returned. That's 100%, and that's Williamstown. But 40-something% of their students chose hybrid or chose virtual, so they didn't really return. Even though they're saying 100%, it was more of a virtual, a hybrid population. The Fort Thomas, I think, has said they're returning on 100%, but I don't know how they socially distance. We have advantages and disadvantages of being in one location. If we had 3 different schools with 3 different cafeterias, with 3 different gymnasiums, with 3 different commons, then we're going to have more space to be able to do some things that we've done to be able to offer 100% option to the elementary. We also have the blessing that has also become the curse that we've grown a lot. I mean, when I took over, I remember asking our initial data, and it was 1253 was the number that I was given. And right now, I think if you add the guardian angel in, we're over 1,500. So the growth has been great in many different aspects, but we had to rent office space this year to move a portion of the central office out just to be able to have rooms to be able to have school without social distancing. But I just don't have an avenue that maybe they have, because they might have multiple spaces that we've used for the elementary. That's the only thing I can think of. We've been in really close contact with Bowling Green Independent and a couple of the other ones that started early, and they're right at 38% of their population that came back on an AB because they had more than that choose virtual. The other problem that we have is, we're looking at about 93% of our families that want to return to face-to-face instruction, not 60 in another school. So that just pushes our number up.
Well, I think it's important for all of our stakeholders to understand that going back in the hybrid method improves our odds that we get to stay in face-to-face.
If we follow the protocol,
Right.
and it's one thing that group behind you will know, and they've heard me say over and over and over again, the key is the protocol. If everyone will follow the protocol, then we should have no contact tracing. If we have no contact tracing, this number should never become a problem. If we don't follow the protocol, and we have to put people into contact tracing, then that's going to make this more problematic through the dashboard, which is going to make it more problematic for us to maintain at least the 100% at the elementary school. And I can't impress how much the protocol is the key. If we follow the protocol, if we follow the social distancing, and sometimes it's hard, even as adults it's hard. We like to socialize as much as the students do. But when it comes to eating together, when it comes to some of the things that we're naturally tend to do, we're going to have to be extremely careful because we can't put ourselves at risk. Every system that I've talked to, the number one issue on return was staff, not students. And that's something important for all of us to remember. And it's not intentional, but you have groups of people that are used to eating together every day, and that's something they enjoy. But we've got to maintain that 6-foot social distancing.
And what about the students that present with symptoms? Will they go to their doctor, get tested there? Will they be?
Well, hopefully I'm going to be able to report to you real soon that we have the ability to offer that here. And we're going to have to put a lot of protocol in place for that as well, because the one thing, even if we're able to do testing, it would be at the parents would have to give approval, number one.
Right, that's
Number
what I
two, we won't hold any kid down to do, is it PCR? Yeah, we won't hold any kid down to do a PCR test. I mean, that's not something, that we're going to do. But we do want to find a way to put into play to keep kids from being quarantined for a long period of time if they're not positive. So if they haven't been around anybody and they haven't come into contact, or there's no one in their homes positive, and they just go to the nurse's station with a stomach, with a throwing up, or they have a sore throat, or a slight fever, if we can show that that kid's not positive with coronavirus, then they don't have to be quarantined 14 days. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. All right, so that's a big deal. And that's what we're trying to do, is be able to separate who is positive from the vast number of kids. Stacy and the nurse's office usually sees around 100 kids a day. Around 100 kids a day go in and out of that nursing office on a bad day. A good day, not as much, but a bad day, it's well over 100. So think about if every kid has a sore throat, or every kid that has a cough, or every kid that has a slight fever automatically becomes COVID symptomatic, then we could have another problem in a different way.
How often did you say the dashboard would be updated?
Daily. At the end of every day, it'll automatically, so Stacy keeps our running record of all of our totals. All that will go in every single day. And that way, you don't have to wait for one at a different location. It'll be brought up every single day, and you can see it directly. So if you look at it in the morning, it will be updated. Now, this is going to be our mode of communication. Just because one kid comes in, a letter's not going to generate K through 12. It'll be more isolated, because we'll automatically put that information out on the dashboard. So we'll have a communication go to families. I mean, we are expecting upon return to face-to-face that they will sign this and they will screen their kid. That's the other thing that we really need from parents. We realize that the kid wants to come to school, especially if they're coming a reduced number of days. But if they're sick, if they have a fever, please help us out by not sending the child to school. So that's my recommendation. And if you have any other questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. I'll just end by saying the 56-slide presentation that we had last time, all that will come back into play. So all those will be our protocol. And I do, a couple of people asked, why in the world would I make a recommendation prior to the 28th? Number one, basically he said today that we could return. Here's how we return. We're exceeding all those requirements. Number two, when athletics came back into play, and the numbers supported the return to play, which I appreciate, then the hybrid model and being able to social distance shouldn't be any different than the model that we're using every day on the athletic field. So it's hard for some of our families to look out the window and see that, and then not be able to have an opportunity not to take their child to work to do NTI. And that's what we've heard over and over and over again. And that's the reason why I made the recommendation tonight.
Anybody have any more questions? Comments? Anything? Okay.
Ready?
You have anything to add?
No?
Okay.
Ready to roll?
Yep.
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Savignano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Reverend Moss?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Looks like we'll start back on the 21st.
And I will keep you updated on a regular basis. I know you have questions about different pieces, especially and I'll keep you updated on that. If something changes, we would like to have at least a couple of weeks to see how everything goes. We'll continue to follow up and give you recommendations accordingly. And we absolutely understand that people want to be back in 5 days, just like Sarah wants to be back in 5 days, and we completely understand that. but we've got to find a way to be able to do it in a safe manner, so I don't get you guys into a problematic situation. However, I do believe that the elementary has the ability and has shown the ability through their communication that if people need that support, I mean, we'll find a way to make that happen through our extra space.
Okay. Okay, on to item B, a revised BG1. Take a motion to approve.
I'll go ahead and make
revi-
the motion to approve the revised BG1.
I'll second.
Okay, I normally don't like to bring things to you a second time, and I apologize, but I had not ever had a priority 5 item listed on a BG1, and at the time that we did the district facilities plan, resource rooms in the high school were not a priority. So they were listed as a priority 5, which means that if you have the money and you have the ability, you know, we'll throw that on. Since that time, those are not priority priority 5 needs. It's a priority 1 need because that's the main issue that we had to move finance and operations off-site was to be able to add 2 resource rooms. So we had to revise the BG1 to take off the priority 5s to make it not kick from KDE. So that is the reason why to put it on for a second time.
Do you have the high school resource room currently where?
It's in, but on our last, 4.5 years ago when we did the district facility, well, 4 years
wasn't on
ago,
there, right.
it wasn't a priority. So we listed as, if this ever happens, we would love to be able to add this for, you know, when we need it. But now we need it desperately. So
Right.
we just had to redo and make that recommendation.
And that's the only change.
That's the only change. So anything on page 3 or 4, you don't see anything that starts with a 5 in the number.
Okay. Anyone have any questions on that,
No.
on the revised? Melanie, Lisa, anything? Okay,
Questions, Mrs. Berger?
yes.
Dr. Salviniano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Reverend Wells?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. On to item C, request for finding to reconvene the LPC committee. Take a motion to approve the request for reconvening the LPC committee.
I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve the request for a finding and to reconvene the LPC to make minor adjustments to the DFP to accommodate the project.
I'll second.
Okay, and this is to reconvene the LPC to make sure we have touched the base of taking the priority 5s off.
Yes.
And I know if you're still at home, watching from home, you have no idea. But whenever we reconvene officially to do a new long-range plan for facilities, that just minor things that you don't think you'll need, and sometimes the things that you think you'll desperately need change gear, switch positions, and that's all that really happened this time.
Are you reconvening the previous group, or are you doing a new group?
We'll do a new group because we also have to rewrite the LPC.
Right, that's what I
as
thought.
well.
We're at that time.
We
Okay.
are.
Okay, any questions?
No.
Okay,
Mrs. Berger?
yes.
Dr. Salviniano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Reverend Wells?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. On to item D. Owner architect Robert Emmett Hayes and Associates, agreement for construction projects. Take a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the written agreement between Beechwood and architect Robert Emmett Hayes and Associates for the upcoming construction projects.
I'll second. You have anything to add to that?
No, this is just identifying
The
Robert
agreement?
REH and Associates as the architect for the upcoming project.
Any questions?
No.
Okay.
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Salviniano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Reverend Willis.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. On to item D, our construction manager. Take a motion to approve the construction manager agreement between Beechwood and Codell Construction Company.
I'll move to approve the construction manager agreement between Beechwood and Codell Construction Company.
I'll second.
All right, so this one actually went through the RFP process, and Ms. Stricker was the board representative on that review process. Melanie can tell you, we went through a rubric that was given to us by a former district who had gone through the same process, so we didn't have to recreate it. We had 3 really good final submissions, but we went through the rubric and identified Codell as our recommendation for the board. If you have any questions, you can gladly direct them to Melanie.
Well, and the thing I would add, the key reason that caused them to score the best is they had the most experience with KDE, and I think they had over 100 projects and like 60-plus current projects in process. So they know how to work with that. We felt that was very important.
And did they work with a lot of like smaller districts or
They also-
big projects? Like, I mean, just,
They also did
that were packed
other
into a
multiple
community?
regions. One other one had experience with KDE, but was only one region in the state.
Yeah, so I had 2 state firms. We had 2 state firms that had a long relationships with school districts. But Codell had the edge on different regions. But really, I was impressed with both, and I was impressed with the out-of-state firm that probably had more work, but their knowledge of KDE, and especially that was an issue for us because the complexity of the project definitely will need someone that can get us through some different channels, but from all the way from the Department of Transportation to the Kentucky Department of Education building side, and that's one thing I know the city's interested in, is because you're taking down or working through a project in such close proximity to one road in and one road out of the school. So it's a very, very tight project, but.
and they are aware of, I mean, our limitations on certain.
Yes, 2 of the 3 firms visited the site, and the other one had visuals from the air and different schematics. They all 3 knew exactly what the project entailed.
Okay. And you felt good about that group out of all the, okay.
I did.
All right, any other questions? Okay.
Ms. Berger?
Yes?
Dr. Savignano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Reverend Willis?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. On to item F, working budget for the 2021 school year. Take a motion to approve.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the working budget for the 2020-2021 school year.
I'll
second it.
Okay.
The
Ray,
only
do you
thing
have
I want
anything?
to point out is that it doesn't include any FEMA reimbursements. I'm very hopeful that we'll get some FEMA money and that it would be a flat budget if we did. But since we haven't worked with FEMA before, I don't want to count that money until we have a better idea how much we'll get.
And that will, you applied for reimbursement for everything that we've had to do in addition to get kids back
Anything
in?
that we've done related to COVID, that we've done, that we would not have done had it not been for COVID.
Right.
For instance, pods to store some things so that we can make more space in the classroom. We wouldn't have done that. Mask, hand sanitizer, gloves.
I will reiterate, number
Lease
one.
space?
Can we count our
Lease
rent, our
space?
lease?
What's that?
Can we
I'm
count the
putting
lease?
it on there.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, that's
it's
why
just
we
to make
moved.
more room,
Right.
yeah.
That's why we moved.
I'll just reiterate to the board, number one, I appreciate Ray's experience. This has been a trying process. I'll also reiterate the fact that the last 5 years of savings has definitely come into play because we have spent this year and the projected carry still shows us in pretty good shape. So that has been, a lot of work has gone into putting us in a position to be able to not be hurt by what we've spent for this year, because everything that we've talked about, from pods to furniture to tables to you name it, cleaning, has definitely been a massive increase in costs, and we're going to be very close to that average that AASA put out that we worried about. So I do appreciate her work, and she's agreed to stay on for another year.
Has she?
Did I say that out loud?
Yeah, I think you did. Thank you, Ray. Thanks for agreeing to that, too.
I heard it.
Yeah.
We all heard it.
If I say it at a board meeting, that means it's got to come true.
It is even being recorded.
I know, right? No, we don't have Ray for another year, but I sure have appreciated having her this one. All right. Any other questions?
No.
Ready, Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Salvagnano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Reverend Willis?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. On to item G, which is just a first reading for a Title IX policy and procedure change. I think this was through KSBA's recommendation.
Yes, I brought Mr. Vanover up, so if you have any specific questions, but this was a follow-up, which typically doesn't happen, but this was a follow-up to the recommendations for policy changes from KSBA, and it is Title IX exclusive, but it just updates some of the federal requirements. So if you have any questions, Mr. Vanover will be more than happy to take any and as detailed questions as you have.
I'm going to channel my inner Jeremy Dieters and play. To summarize, basically what it is the federal legislation this past year expanded on Title IX legislation that already existed. Primarily, the two largest areas were the area of reporting. It expanded who can report issues with that fall from Title IX. Expanding beyond just the potential victim of Title IX, it went beyond that. It allowed more individuals to report potential instances under Title IX legislation. And then secondarily, it also expanded the methods by which Title IX can be reported. It included more electronic means to allow, basically, to make the process for reporting potential instances of Title IX easier for any potential victims. And that's a pretty broad summary, but the legislation, of course, since it covers so many sections, there have to be revisions within each section. That's why it's so long as far as pages.
And I think it was, where it was coming from the feds, it just didn't make it in time for the legislative updates. So
Largely
I
driven-
know it's out of, and not typical to have a follow-up so soon after you just finalizing, but that's the case. It does not take it's a first read, so that gives you time to look over any specifics, any details, and you can follow up at next month's meeting, if you, before next month's meeting, if you have any questions.
Okay. I'm guessing every district is adding that to
Yes,
their.
it came down through the Kentucky School Board Association to every district. It's largely brought on to, you may have heard recently in discussions about the college level. It was
I
very,
was wondering if that's where
Yeah.
it was kind of driven.
largely as a result of some discussions at the college level that you've heard in the past year or two.
Okay. Anybody have any more questions for Brian?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
Lucky you.
I know.
Thank you.
I think as many as Stacy, I feel unwanted. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Salvagnano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Oh, well, you know what?
Yeah.
We
You
didn't
have to
even have to
vote
vote
on
on that.
Oh, right.
Because it
It's okay. I mean, you can
Next
vote on
time.
it twice, but
Yeah,
it still
we
doesn't
can.
count.
The nod.
I think I set the tone for the night, right?
Yeah, yes, you did.
Yeah.
We're all doing everything out of order. Okay, so on to our consent agenda. I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, any?
Yeah, a couple of things I want to point out that are not usual. am making the recommendation, and this doesn't, I don't think this needs board approval, but I'd rather put it on there and you be aware than not. We will be, if you approve, we will be hiring 2 full-time substitutes, and maybe I may be coming back with 2 more, because one of the concerns other than protocol is the fact of being able to maintain substitutes for some of the situations that we will incur, one of which is a consistent person in the gymnasium during the 5-day option. The elementary's done a great job of putting a schedule together to rotate teachers in and out of that space, and multiple teachers at times in and out of that space. But we do feel like we need one consistent person in there, so that will be a 1. And then we're at least asking for a second to be able to be on standby. And I don't think this is a huge risk, because even in a place as small as Beechwood, I think there were only like 10 days last year that we didn't have at least one person absent at some point in time. So I don't think we're necessarily going to lose anything. We're just locking people in and giving them the opportunity not to have to take a 5:30 phone call and go to bed not knowing if they're going to work at any district around the next day, and go ahead and lock them in for the whole year. So that is a little bit different. And we also have put on, for the first time, a language transition service contract. This is a max $4,000, and it's any time that we have a special ed meeting, or ESL meeting, or EL meeting, or a medical emergency, that we have a backup to people inside the building for translation services.
Have we had that before? Or did we
Not
just switch?
since I've been here.
Okay, so it is.
Because we've used in-house people.
Okay.
Ms. Grunkemeyer has been kind enough to help out as well.
Okay.
But just a little bit more formal, and we don't have to worry about, other schedules. They're
Right.
available anytime we call them.
Okay.
And outside of that, everything else is pretty much straight away. I will say the CATSAC agreement is on there for Guardian Angel, and my personal favorite archery fee difference. So just, I'm personally supporting that one.
I had a question. Do we create those non-resident contracts, or does the other school create them?
It's just a state it's just a mutual agreement. But does it originate with us?
The reason I'm asking is they're not all the same,
Yeah.
formatting wise.
Who originates the contract for an out of district non-resident? Is it the outgoing or the incoming?
Contract is issued from the district that we receive from to us.
Yeah, so it would be we will be the receiving of that.
So we don't create the contract. It's just whatever they have. Okay,
We would create it if someone here chose to go somewhere else.
gotcha. It's interesting.
I mean, they all have basically the same information, but yours is probably from a consistency standpoint.
And some are prettier than others.
Or a branding standpoint.
Right.
Any other questions on consent?
No.
Okay.
Ready, Ms. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Salvagnano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Reverend Willis?
Yes. Okay, motion carries. We got through that hefty agenda. So on to our information portion. Dr. Stacy, do you have anything to add for
No,
superintendent's report?
I really just would like to clarify and reiterate two different points. Number one, I do want to tell the community and the staff that I appreciate them sharing their opinion with the board and with me. As far as I'm concerned, there's no wrong opinion. There's no wrong voice. And we've really tried to make sure that everybody knows that we wanted to hear their opinions. We walked around. The administrators in each building walked around and took a face-to-face or sometimes text, sometimes phone calls but I want to go around again to just question staff one more time before I made that final recommendation to the board. And overwhelmingly, I think the high school was somewhere around 40 to 8 or 9. Was it? 43 to 8. All right, 43 to 8, 43 to 9, wanting to return from classified. Certified, district-wide, we didn't find anybody that didn't want to return, and the elementary was 46 to 4 that wanted to return. So I just wanted to make sure that I could report to you guys exact information from the staff as well as the community. I think we forwarded every email to you from the community, and it was the same overwhelmingly to return. However, that doesn't discredit the people who, who have fear and who worry about returning, and that's important. That's important to put that out as well. The thing that I've had to tell the staff is sometimes you run into a situation where your community supports something, your board supports something, and your superintendent supports something based on the way that they're interpreting the data that you may not. And there's nothing wrong with that either, but that doesn't necessarily make the decision wrong on the flip side. I feel comfortable on September the 14th making that recommendation. I didn't feel comfortable on August the 12th making that same recommendation based on the lack of information. But with the private schools being back into play and being able to talk to public systems that have been back in play as well, they all tell me the same thing. And when everybody's telling me the same thing, then that consistency provides me a lot of information to be able to make a better decision. They've all told me protocol and social distancing are the key. And as of right now, those are the two main factors, along with the input from the community, along with input from each one of you in the ongoing conversations we've had. So I just wanted to go over that decision-making process and those numbers one last time, really as more of a thank you to our staff and to the community for reaching out. This is absolutely one time where that opinion was coveted and very much appreciated. And then finally, just to end, I know a lot of people want to come back 5 days. A lot of people. And I can't say that a lot of the staff wouldn't prefer that over a hybrid as well. However, based on those conversations and the current requirements, I just don't see how we can do it today. And my recommendation, I told you, if you had gone against anything, that was fine. But I also told you if you went, we would be ready to roll immediately. And I just couldn't make that recommendation based on those existing requirements. So that's all. I just wanted to go over that one more time.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for going a little bit more in detail on the numbers and the support and where that lies in both buildings, because it is helpful for all of us to know. The data was helpful to have, the letters were helpful. I know it was a lot, and I hope everybody got what I sent. Mm-hmm. And Lori also sent you, it came from several different directions, and then some people sent directly to us. So it was a lot of information to take in. I know some of the letters were lengthy, and a lot of good information was in everyone's letter, so we do appreciate everyone reaching out, both staff and our community, so thank you for that.
I might want to clarify one more thing. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people have asked about streaming and streaming in classrooms. All right, so from our standpoint, we offered a virtual opportunity, and then we have the face-to-face or NTI whatever opportunity. All right, when we come over here and we have A-B students that are coming back face-to-face, okay, in my classroom, AP Euro, it's a college level course. I plan on teaching 3 days and having 2 work days. So A students and B students will hear a repetitive portion, right? So whatever A class looks like for 2 days, I'll repeat that for B students. And the hybrid or the remote day will be for everyone. Right now, Another teacher may ask and want to stream all 5 days, and the A kids be in front of him or her, and the B kids be at home, and they're going to instruct for 5 days. And you will see different teachers put different models in place from a streaming standpoint. That's perfectly fine, but as superintendent and as the board, we don't govern how a teacher decides to teach the class. So I know a lot of people wondered, why can't the B students just stream in? Well, they absolutely can, and vice versa. The A students can stream in, but that is up to a teacher, and that is up for the principal and SBDM to manage, to make sure that the curriculum that they're being able to deliver meets all the requirements. And what I can do in an AP class, a small AP class at that, may not be able to be done in a middle school or a different level class. But that will be up to the teacher and the school to be able to monitor that progress.
But you're
However,
talking high school, though.
huh?
You're just talking high school.
No, that part will be up to either. However, if someone chooses virtual, I will not make the recommendation to this board that teachers teach A students, they teach B students remotely, or vice versa. They teach kids that are in quarantine or kids that are absent, and they have to manage a full virtual curriculum. I do not think that's healthy for the teacher, and I do not think that's the best level of instruction for the student. However, those are two separate conversations. And I appreciate, and I don't think everybody understands, honestly, that the board has given us the ability to do something that most places don't have, and that's that you've put a virtual curriculum. You've paid for a virtual curriculum, and elementary, you've allowed us to reassign staff to be able to oversee that. So, when you put those two together, I do think that anybody that chooses virtual has a better setup, and our teachers have a better opportunity of being somewhat successful, because it's going to be challenging enough to be able to manage a hybrid. A hybrid is more difficult in one way than a full NTI or a full in-person. And I hope I explained that. If I didn't, ask follow-up questions, because I know that's been something that's been churning in the community.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any other questions for Dr. Stacy in regard to?
Yeah,
Now's the time.
huh?
Now's the time.
Yeah.
So when you say 5 days, elementary school 5 days, just to clarify for the audience, explain exactly what that means.
Okay, yeah, that's another thing I should have, because I know you all had mentioned that was brought out too. All right, we can't fit them in and maintain 6-foot social distancing all in their original classroom. So the A students will be in the homeroom classrooms. B students will be in the extended area or the learning lab area. Some people have asked, well, how can you do 5 days? Well, we've had to add extra space to be able to do that. And then it'll be up to the teacher as to how that instruction's going on. But just because we're having a 5-day option does not mean that all the elementary students will be in the elementary classrooms like a normal year.
But they'll all be on campus.
They'll all be on campus. Okay. Anybody that chooses a 5-day option in the elementary will be on campus.
But you already had applications for those. Those spots are already set, right?
They're already set. However, I'm not sure, we've some people didn't realize, and I'll be honest with you, and I think a couple of the emails explain that, some people were really excited about the NTI opportunity until they had, about 6 or 7 days of it. And then virtual was not looking as good, and that 5-day option was looking better. And we've tried to accommodate those people who have come in and said, okay, I really need this to happen, because that's where we've tried to put, and that was your all's request, and that's where we've tried to put our energy, is to be able to offer that option to elementary, because I talked to a mom day before yesterday that didn't do an email. She just wanted to call in. She was struggling because she hasn't been able, her job has picked up, along with several other people I've talked to. Their jobs have increased, just like my job in one way has increased. So she's working more than she ever has, and she doesn't have an option for her young elementary student, so she takes her to work with her every day. And that has become a really huge problem, and therefore we're continuing to work with those situations as best we can to make sure we provide support for them. Any other clarifying? And again, it's up to my class. I'm going to do A days, and then I'm going to repeat it on B days. Other people will do 5 days streaming, and other people may have all different kinds of scenarios going into place, but that is up to the teacher and the principal to manage accordingly.
Dr. Stacy, how about the students with special needs, IEPs, et cetera? Can you address that?
Yeah. Yeah, so that's been another concern. I think that's been another concern of ours, but it's really hard to follow the Americans with Disabilities Act. I told you all that would be one of the hardest things that we managed over, because I've got to be careful on how we put that into play. However, that will be a process. Are you talking about a 5-day or not?
Just in general.
Okay, just in general. So we've gone through every single one of those, and Ms. Steltenkamp has definitely led that process, but that will be done on an individual basis. If your child has a disability, if your child has a file of any kind, and that's any file holder on either side of the spectrum, you know, if we haven't reached out to you already, make sure you reach out to us, because each one of those are being done independently, because there's no way to make a blanket policy, right? So a student with a speech disability and plan cannot be treated the same way a gifted child is treated with a plan versus an EL child versus more SLD or any of the other different identifications. So we've really had to go individually, student by student. So again, if anybody hasn't been contacted, especially with an IEP, make sure you're reaching out to us so we can go through that process. Now, little caveat, if you chose 5-day, really make sure you reach out to us, because there's other things that we've got to make sure that we're following in that legal process to make sure we're checking off every box correctly, because it can be tricky. And I know that didn't really answer.
No, you did. You addressed.
There's certain things I can say, and there's certain things I can't say.
Just covering all bases.
Yeah, very important, any file holder, to reach out and make sure that we've had contact on the reentry over the next week.
Okay.
Also, if you have any questions at all, just because we asked for input and the board meetings tonight, I mean, we're still here. We're still answering email. We're still answering phone calls. So if you need clarification on something, all the way from the dashboard to the reentry plan, I know you're going to have questions. Stacy's going to be here. I'm going to be here, as well as all of our admin team.
Okay. Ready to go? Anybody else have any other questions? Okay. All right. Ray, do you have anything to add for finance?
I do not.
Okay. All right. Take a motion to make the agenda part of the official board minutes. I'll make the motion to make the agenda part of the official board minutes.
Second.
Ms. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Savignano?
Yes.
Ms. Stricker?
Yes.
Robert Willis?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. On to other business. Anybody have any new business, anything? I think we've covered quite a bit this hour and 10 minutes that, you know, and for the last 6 or 7 months, but there could be something new. I don't know. Anybody? Okay. Well, I just want to thank everyone for those who are tuning in, listening, and for just everyone's feedback. We do appreciate it. I know for some it's not the outcome they want, but we are listening to our community, and we are doing the best we can within the requirements to provide face-to-face learning for our children, and learning for our children. So thank you again, and thank you for our administration team. You guys are awesome. You've been doing a great job. I know I'm checking in with Ava every day, and you know, the kids are just doing the best they can, and
I would
it's tough.
just chime in just for a second while we're
really?
still on. Brandon and Tim, we've pushed them pretty hard all the way from streaming board meetings that they've never streamed before, to managing NTI, to managing how to get more Chromebooks out. I mean, you name it, they've had to do a lot.
And all
then
the IT questions,
Tim
I'm
decided
sure,
to
that are
put,
coming that way.
internet in the varsity gym last minute, and, you know, that's another add-on that he's decided to do. So, you know, honestly, they've been pushed pretty hard. I'll also say that I've been pretty demanding with the admin group. When you're talking about making a recommendation for the entire community, we want to have every I dotted and every T crossed. So they've been pushed pretty hard as well over the last few weeks. So that's all.
Okay, for now. Okay, thank you, Tim, thank you all, we appreciate you. Okay, any other new business? Otherwise, we'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Mrs. Berger?
Yes.
Dr. Salmoniano?
Yes.
Stricker and Reverend Willis?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion